wrote recently that is just, again, with my study, I write these pieces to create dialogues. We won't get to do, so I'll just get a quick one-liner from each of you. But this is something that I haven't put out publicly, and I'm going to share it with you guys right now. This is maybe if I do a part 2 of Re-Education of the Negro. It's called Black Socrates Speaks, the World Remained Black. The more I learn about race, the more I better understand the statement there is only one race, the human race. In the past, I would say this, and the focus was in part because scientifically this is a fact, and to highlight that during the transatlantic enslavement trade, race was contextualized into the construct we know today, or should I say misconstruct. Upon further thought, the current construct of race is so misunderstood that we actually don't realize if humans had not evolved into different skin tones after migrating out of Africa, human history would remain the exact same. Yes, Ukraine and Russia, as well as Israel and Hamas, would be at war. The only difference is they would all be black. Just my 3 cents. John, your first response to that thought. Just a quick one-liner so I can get one from all of you before we close the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. I agree with that. I believe that going back to that cultural discussion, that the different cultures have developed different prejudices and thoughts and whatnot within the culture over the years, and that has created a conflict that's been created. So regardless of skin tone, I think the cultural differences would, in fact, cause that conflict. I agree there.
Scott, any thoughts to my new probably for part 2 maybe?
Yeah,
you think about that cut.
Yeah, I'll just say this to kind of the last half hour worth. I think it boils down to learn about differences, learn about the differences in people, but also learn about the similarities in people. And I agree with what you're saying. I mean, we are still the human race, and we're still going to have conflict. But if you learn about both sides of it, we might be able to push past some of it. It's been a pleasure, you guys.
No, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Scott, for your time, brother. And so, Dr. Sunjata, if you will, this is just a piece that I just, and it relates to what you just talked about in reading that book, the Hillbilly. How do you say the title of it again?
Hillbilly Elegy.
Hillbilly Elegy. So the piece I just wrote speaks to that because, again, it's the human experience under the same conditions. So humans typically react to stimuli very similar, whereas in this country we often equate certain things to a particular race. And so clearly in that piece, I'm highlighting that all of the cultural distinctions wouldn't change simply by changing people's race. And people may reject that because now, after having been through the transatlantic enslavement trade, now here 400 years later, which is a short time in human history, to your point earlier in the show, but after having been through this construct and it being a very real thing that includes, again, we're not dismissing that it can include life or death consequences. It's not a group that's just simply dismissing the skin tone or the genetic skin color as something as simple. It's not simple. We know it has a reality, and in that reality, what we get caught up in with the construct is actually believing particular acts are particular to a certain race. We do it both ways. Right. And the reality is all of those conflicts would probably exist whether people were able to evolve into a different skin color or not, because so many other factors play a bigger role than simply skin tone ever would. We got a few minutes, Doctor.
Yes.
I'm going to give you kind of the final thoughts before